Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. We have one of my favorite people in the house, Amanda Pollack. Welcome, Amanda.
Good morning.
You are amazing in everything that you do. Tell people on TV, what does Amanda Pollack do for us?
So I work for the City of Salisbury. I'm the director of the Infrastructure and Development Department, or in really more simple terms, I'm the city engineer.
The city engineer.
Yes. So we process everything that is under construction. So whether it's a city infrastructure project, we're taking that through design and funding and bidding and construction, or development projects. We're doing all the review for all development projects.
You have your hand in everything that goes on in the city.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, anything that you see where there's a contractor out working, I should know what's going on.
Right.
So yes, exactly. My team is everywhere in the city, inspecting and designing and planning.
And there's been so many worthy projects and really tough projects that you've dealt with, certainly in the last decade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've been there for almost 10 years, and probably the most challenging project was the wastewater treatment plant upgrade that we've talked about before, and it's been over for a few years, so people don't even think about it anymore. But that was a huge project, and a very, very important one, a $60 million project, and we were under a consent order from the state, so that was one that had to get done right, and we are fortunate that it has gotten done right, and the treatment plant's doing great.
And I've worked with so many different city engineers as a reporter, and they were not people. They were very much into the blueprints and the stuff
Right.
that went on. They didn't even want to engage developers or architects because it was more work, it was more trouble. But that's not your mode at all.
Well, I came from being a consultant. So I was in the consulting industry for 16 years first here in Salisbury. So I think I have always understood that side of things. And that's a lot of the feedback I've gotten from developers over the years is you understand our reality. And I think that I do understand their reality and try to find that middle ground. Because as you know, a government, even as small as a city, we have a lot of regulations. There's red tape, there's bureaucracy. But I've always said I know where I have a gray area and I know what's black and white. I know what's in the code and I have no ability to change it, or I know, okay, yeah, we can have this meeting without having your bond, but you're not getting notice. There's always some gray. So I think that's what developers have appreciated over the years is that, we have an ability to find a common ground.
And so much of my job is watching the city meetings, and I've always watched you carefully and closely because you're bringing the big projects to the. You're dealing with things that can go wrong and go
Yes.
wrong in a big way and make everyone look bad. So they don't grill you, but you're so prepared. You know all the numbers. You know all the little nuances of a project, where things stand, where this has gone wrong. How do you get so involved in so many areas of what you do?
So I have a good team. There's 5 engineers under me, and we meet weekly or bi-weekly on all of the infrastructure projects. And we have almost 100 infrastructure projects right now, not counting development projects.
100?
Some are teeny and some are huge. Some are multi-million and some are a $10,000, piece of equipment. But we talk about it. So I am engaged, I'm involved, I'm copied on emails, and I guess I just have a lot of storage space up here that, I remember all these facts and figures and data. And when I go to city council, I really try hard before I go to think through what questions are they going to ask. And I try to answer questions in the memo in advance, and then going there, I think about them. What would the council care about that I haven't said? What angle are they thinking about this from? So I put a lot of thought into going to city council meetings and trying to make sure I'm answering their questions. When I started at the city, it was a little bit more contentious with council, and some council members didn't always trust what staff was saying.
There was a gotcha element to all of it.
There was, and I saw that, and I was conscious of it. And I also saw how, at that time, staff was answering council's questions. And
they were not always polite back.
Not always polite back, not always 100% forthcoming or truthful. And honestly, from watching that, I thought that's not how I'm going to be. I need to be 100% forthcoming, truthful. They need to trust me because we do have so much going on. And honestly, I could have that 100 projects and you could pick any one of them and I can tell you the challenges and the lessons we learned. Nothing goes perfectly. Nothing goes absolutely according to plan. Absolutely nothing. I mean, I've learned things from every single project we've done, even the most, seemingly basic. So council, how on earth could they know all of that? You know,
Right.
they are making an assumption, a good assumption that I know that and that my team is handling it properly. And so, you know, I really appreciate the good relationship I've had with council and that they do trust us and know that we're coming and being honest and sharing the, you know, that little piece of a project with them.
So when the history of Salisbury is written, and when you were hired in this position, there were 3 big projects you had to get done. What were they, and how's that going?
Yeah, so I was going to turn that question on you. So that was in 2012, July of 2012. So it was Mayor Ireton was the mayor and different public works director. And yeah, so part of why I was hired as at that time, Deputy Director of Public Works was to finish 3 key projects. So I'm going to ask you first. Any idea?
Well, I'm sure the sewer plant was one.
That was the top. Yeah, that was the top.
And that thing was a mess. I guess and it wasn't really anybody's fault.
Yeah, when I was hired, we were negotiating the consent order with the state, which basically said you need to be in compliance by this date with these levels coming out of the plant. And so again, that was in 2012, and we had 5 years essentially to get an entire plant designed and built. So that was a challenge, but we did it. We met the consent order. The plant is operating beautifully, and we had just a phenomenal team. Our design team was great. The construction team was great. The plant staff deserves so much credit for what they endured during the period when it wasn't working. And then, as you can imagine, you have to keep a wastewater plant fully operating while you're upgrading it. So there were tanks that we reprocessed to be different processes. There were processes that came offline. It was challenging. I mean, it was a pleasure. You know, it really is one of my favorite projects in my entire career. I don't think anything will top it.
Is it Carrie who's out there? Carrie?
Connie Luffin.
Connie, okay,
Connie's
yeah.
the superintendent.
Right.
Yes, yeah. So
Now, you would think, like, you know, when someone gets up in the morning and they're going to go to work at the sewer plant, you know, that's like just like a stereotype of what that would be like.
Yeah.
But these people out there are so proud of what they do.
They are.
And they're doing something that's really, really important.
It is, and they have to understand biology and chemistry and mechanics. You know, they're tweaking pumps and equipment. They're reading probes and adjusting things. We have a really high-tech SCADA system so they can operate things from a desk, but you don't want to do something wrong and you're not visually, I mean, it is amazing what
It's a great facility, it really is.
It's a phenomenal
and
facility.
there's a team there, so
yes,
yeah.
it's a huge team. So that was a fun project. It was hard, it was busy, but very, very enjoyable. And we used some really neat technologies out there with, we constructed a big tank that was all prefabricated panels. So they came in on trucks, and that was just amazing to watch.
This is where she turns into the engineer.
I know. Yeah, you got to stop me at some point. Yeah, stop me. So, but it was a great project. But anyway, okay. So, what were the top 2 other projects in 2012?
I'm going to say the Main Street Master Plan.
It was not.
Oh, it was not. That wasn't.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. So there were 2 hot button items that needed to get done.
The pump station on
Wastewater
No. Street? No.
See, I knew you wouldn't get them. That's why.
The pump station over there on the Pinehurst neighborhood?
No.
I don't know.
Yay. I stumped you. So the animal health building at the zoo.
Right, okay.
And
right.
that was one where they had challenges in construction, had to let go a contractor. It had a geothermal system, and when they were trying to install it before, it hit an underground spring, and they couldn't get water. So there was a lot of challenges. So that was one that they said, you have got to get that building built. And there it is.
That's
it's
excellent.
Built.
Awesome.
And then the other one was, at that time, the Riverwalk itself had major structural problems. The bulkheading was bowing in. A lot of the outfall pipes had fallen, so they were actually discharging behind the bulkhead and eroding away. And we had that old exposed aggregate surface, and they were the big panels, and so the ground was eroding away below it, but the only way you knew it is all of a sudden one of those panels would fall in. So the Riverwalk was my other one. So that was an early job where we stabilized the whole bulkhead and put in anchors, and then put the outfall pipes through the bulkhead, and then we have the nice stamped surface now for the Riverwalk. We were originally just going to reset all those exposed aggregates. But as we got into it, we thought, we have an opportunity here to beautify. It started out as strictly a structural project. So I've always joked with Mayor Day when the treatment plant got done, because those first 2 got done, I think, while he was still on council. And of course, the treatment plant took longer. So when that was done, I told him, I'm done. I finished my I was hired to do 3 projects, and I'm done. So Main Street Master Plan came along not too much further after.
Well, yeah, then he came up with things that were really going to define your legacy forever.
Definitely, yes. So when Mayor Day became mayor, Main Street really took on life. And I've said it before, that project ended up spanning 7 fiscal years. I mean, that took dedication from council to continue to fund it. And it started out in design, so we had to design it first. There was the 2009 Urban Salisbury Plan, and we had to bring that to life. And it was really exciting to see. But then, of course, that one, you want to talk about lessons learned, first shovel in the ground, and we hit contaminated soils. And it was one of those things where we had tested the soils up and down the street, didn't catch anything.
See, but even I knew there was going to be a problem there because the gas station was there for so long, and there was one across the street, so I knew there was going to be problems there.
Gas stations up and down the street. Yeah,
right.
It was just great. So, but again, we got through it, and the residents and business owners who had to survive all of that have gotten through it. Hopefully it's just a memory for them now, because it looks great and it's nice to have it done.
It looks great and it's functional. It's great to walk in that environment. And again, now that there's a little age on it, you can see the environmental, the eco stuff that's been done along there and the purpose for it.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So, city streets, especially something like Main Street, they were not designed with stormwater management. That just was not a thing when that was happening. So most streets in the town don't have that. So you see on Main Street, there are what we call bioretention areas, which are areas of plantings that are native plants, so they uptake the nutrients and the water that are coming off of the street. We also, where the tree pits are, all those brick pavers are porous pavers, so water that falls on the sidewalk goes in there and it goes right down to the trees. So we shouldn't see the trees heaving up the sidewalk in a few years, because they're getting all the water they need right at their roots.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of environmental elements on the street that weren't there before, and by having the plants use the water, there's less water going out the pipes. So there's less water going to the river, and what's going out is cleaner. So it's a huge improvement environmentally too. And honestly, when the 2009 report, there was all sorts of goals. That wasn't one of them. It wasn't even really that much of a thing then. The new state stormwater regs came out the year after, in 2010. So in 2009, being a green street wasn't a goal, but I'm really proud that we were able to accomplish that.
And of course, the work on West Main Street, the dissolving of the plaza and that replacement, that's one of those, I'm like, how are they going to pull this off? And again, total success.
Yes, so it was interesting. It was hard to visualize what the plaza was going to look like not being a plaza.
Right.
And it's funny. I mean, from the years when it was a plaza and then it turned into cars were allowed there, well, pedestrians still, they didn't always get that message.
Right.
So people would walk in the middle of what was the road because it wasn't all that obvious. And, there was bricks and there was some asphalt and some concrete, and it was confusing. Then we had the big planters that were supposed to clue you into where to park, and it was kind of a mess. So I love how it looks. That's actually one of my favorite things about Main Street. And last night I went to dinner downtown, and we came through the roundabout and we came up Main Street now that the direction of traffic is reversed. And that coming up Main Street to me right now, it's just beautiful. It's
when
stunning.
I was a kid, that hill, you don't realize how big the hill is, really. But that looked like a city to me, and that was the city. And I've talked about this all the time. It's a city, and it should look like a city.
And it does, and you see the buildings. And there are absolutely beautiful buildings on West Main Street. And they're so different, and they're historic. And now with the ornamental street lights, and I just think it's stunning. I love how it looks. And I know we're going to talk about the obelisk, so
We don't have to talk about that.
we can.
So that's been amazing. That seemed almost like an easy project, but North Division took you a long time because there was so much stuff. And that's another thing about a city. You just see what's above the ground. In a city, everything's below the ground.
So it's funny. So let me say one thing about West Main Street not being easy real quick. So first off, we were very fortunate. We were on West Main Street during the pandemic. So there was less people downtown in general. So that made construction easier. Although we were dealing with construction crews and COVID testing and all that good stuff. But there was at the downside of that hill towards Mill Street, kind of an underground spring. And so when we were doing testing and realized how much water was down there, we decided we're not going to replace the sewer down here. We can't possibly. There's no way we'll dewater it. So we switched to slip lining. So it would have been a lot harder, but we made some changes in the field.
So slip lining is where you put a new
pipe inside
the pipe,
Yep,
right,
and
okay.
it gives it brand new life. So it was a great thing to do. It saved a lot of money, and it saved what was potentially going to be a big headache. But yes, Division Street. So that intersection of Division and Main Street, we were joking about it just yesterday. Rick Baldwin, who's a civil engineer in my department, and he said, we found something unforeseen in every inch, and there was probably a 1 foot square area we didn't dig up, and that was where the last problem
Right.
was. So everything in there was not as it was supposed to be. And we had, there was one area we had a storm drain pipe, a gas main, and a water main sitting on top of each other, literally touching each other. And so it was so difficult. So I think we were in that intersection, it might have been 8 weeks.
Right.
It was so much longer than planned, but we had a wonderful contractor. We had switched for that last phase to a time and materials contract, which means essentially the city and the contractor shared the risk. They didn't have to give us crazy exorbitant prices at bid time, factoring in risk. We basically said to them, we will pay for what it takes to get it done. And that's how we were able to come in under budget, especially with that intersection, is they knew, okay, we need to do this right, and we're getting paid for it. There was no arguing about, well, you should have known that, and you should have known that. No.
Yeah, it fascinates me because readers call me all the time, and they're like, oh, I saw the city, there was a project, there's one man in the hole, and there's 30 guys standing around watching the one man in the hole. No wonder my taxes are so high. So it's up to me, and I'm sure you get these calls all the time too. It's up to me to go, all right, first, it's a contractor, it's not the city. So many people are killed in collapsing accidents where these holes fill in. You need to have personnel. They're all there for a reason. There's no extra, just the amount of damage done to workers who are in holes. That's where everything goes wrong. So, smarten up. Don't think you know anything, because you don't know anything.
Yeah.
But anytime you dig a hole, it's dangerous.
It is dangerous. And, some of the people standing outside are probably the safety manager. Right. There are people with other roles looking at things. Not everybody should be in the trench.
Right.
And all those people could never be down in the trench. You never get anything accomplished. But yes, we get that all the time. And you have to keep in mind on a project like that, there was the contractor, there's superintendents for the contractor, there's their safety manager. We had hired an outside inspection agency. We still had our inspectors going. So there's all sorts of levels of folks that would never be down in that hole. There's the 1 or 2 guys who are doing their job in the hole, and everybody else is here to talk about it, make sure it's going right, answer the problems that come up, because we found along West Main Street old coal chutes. So there used to be coal chutes so that you could put coal right in a little hole up on the sidewalk and it would go down in the basement.
Right.
Not all of those were closed off. So when we removed the sidewalk, there's a coal chute.
Oh my
so,
gosh.
there were unforeseens like that there were no plans for that. We couldn't have anticipated finding those. So it was wild. It was peeling away layers and just seeing what was under Main Street.
You grew up around here. You went to Parkside?
Yes, yeah, I grew up in Salisbury. I'm still a come here. My parents moved here when I was 2 years old, but I went to Glen Avenue, Bennett Jr., and I graduated from Parkside. Yes.
So what's it been like to have a family here, to be and see all the changes in Salisbury?
It's wonderful. I think the time it hit me the most was during the first National Folk Festival. There was a band performed, and then there was the parade down Main Street to the big Purdue stage. And walking down that parade, and you felt like you knew everybody, and you're waving to everybody, and you're thinking, this is Salisbury. This is my city. I've grown up here. I could have never imagined something like this. We had the Salisbury Festival for years, but the folk festival it was amazing. So I love it here, and my husband's from Philadelphia, so I was happy to bring him down here when we graduated college so that we could, raise a family here.
And he's an engineer too.
He is. He's a mechanical engineer, and my son's about to graduate from high school, and he wants to be a chemical engineer. So
wow.
He's going to one up his parents, but he's way smarter than us, so he'll be a success too.
Where does he go to school?
He goes to the Salisbury School right
Okay.
now. Yep, and is kind of gathering his college acceptances. So we're in decision time. So we'll see where he lands soon.
All right, we can talk about the traffic circle if you want.
It's really funny because I was the most nervous about that project than any other project, because people have such a strong opinion on traffic. And yes, we did traffic studies, and the traffic experts were saying the level of service will improve, it'll be great. I was so nervous. I drive through that intersection every day on my way to work, and I was just nervous. So again, we benefited from doing the project during the pandemic because there was less traffic. When it opened, there was still less traffic, so people were getting used to it without the full rush hour traffic. But yes, it is functioning
It's
wonderfully.
the greatest thing ever.
It's beautiful,
When I
yes.
think of all the time I sat at that light,
I know.
I mean, because we lived at Oak Hill for a long time, and I went to St. Francis, so we sat at that light all the time.
The other morning, I was coming through at a slightly off hour for me, and I was backed up, right about to rise up. And it's the first time I've been backed up that far in the morning. I thought, oh, let me see. And so I checked the time. Within 2 minutes, I was through. And I thought, there were times I could have sat through that light multiple times.
Yeah.
So even in, there are some busy times, and when an ambulance or something goes through, it throws it off. But yeah, it's functioning great. And then the obelisk. So back in the...
We don't have to talk about that.
No, we can. I don't mind at all because I absolutely love it there. I think it could not have been anywhere else. It's perfect there, and I was wrong.
I hope Tom has the recording button on this one.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was definitely wrong. I did not want the obelisk there. I thought it would...
Really? I didn't know that.
No, you didn't. You only put it in the editorial page of the paper to get feedback from folks. No, you had no idea. But yeah, I was worried about it being a distraction, because you don't want people distracted. You want them looking at the traffic. But I was completely wrong. It is a landmark now. It's just a monument, and it's beautiful. It is also not leaning.
Yeah, now answer that question. Everyone
Yes.
says it's crooked.
Look at the base and
If you come from the east side on Carroll Street, it looks like it
does.
lays back.
Yes, if you're looking over the new pedestrian bridge, that's the worst angle. It absolutely, it's Leaning Tower of Pisa in that direction, but it's level. It is supposed to be, I believe, a bird in flight, and so it is leaning. I mean, that is how it's designed. But if you look at the base, it is absolutely level.
I can put a level under there, and it's
You
gonna.
could,
Okay.
and it's level. But even that, so that was a fun engineering challenge. We had no plans for what the base was on the plaza. So when we were trying to get it out, we had to figure out what was here, and then we had to design a base to make sure it would stand up at the other location. Because God forbid we put it in, and a couple months later it really is leaning.
Yeah, people know it's a big hunk of aluminum, but it's it's hollow in the center.
Yes, yeah, it's hollow, but it was still a challenge to move. That was a project. The Urban Salisbury plans from 2009 had labeled it as it needed to be moved to a prominent civic location. And when I saw that, I thought, okay, I'm going to lose the battle to have it go in the middle of the roundabout. And again, I said this to the mayor and the state of the city. I was wrong. I absolutely love it there. And I, again, I think it matches. You couldn't have put some small shrubs or some teeny, pardon me, some teeny little sculpture. Well, you could have, but it wouldn't have looked complete. It makes it grand.
Well,
it's
we're
perfect.
not done there because we're working now. I had a golf event, and I invited Julia and Karen Dunn, and we had John Petito from Delmarva Power because we want to get those power lines moved.
Okay.
And John was not helpful at all in terms of Delmarva Power paying for it, and you don't want to waste money for something like that. So we're going to put the pressure on to get those power lines out of there and make it a nice, clean thing.
That would be lovely. And we have Mill Street Bridge reconstruction in our capital improvements plan. And when we reconstruct the bridge, we want our ornamental streetlights on it. So we want that area to feel like downtown. So yeah, we're not done there. I didn't know about the utility, but that's the electric. But.
I like the little pedestrian bridge too. That's gone really well.
Yeah, so that has gone well. When Carroll Street is done, it'll all tie in a little bit more. But it is funny, from downtown, there was no easy way to cross the river. So that is a nice direct route for those people who are going up to Rise Up or who live across on that side. And when that property that's 500 Riverside, that's right there at the circle, when that develops, that'll be an easy way for them to get to a parking lot or get downtown. So,
well, and that's a point the mayor made forever, and he was able to articulate it, that Route 50, Salisbury Parkway, and Carroll Street, they're like moats that keep people from the neighborhoods into coming downtown because they think about crossing that street. And now with the traffic circle and the bridge, people from North Camden have no excuse not to go downtown. So it's really smart that way.
Yeah, definitely. And then Carroll Street will improve the bike lanes as well and tie into the bicycle network. So it'll be easier then to ride your bike downtown. And that's part of why we made the bridge wide. It's 12 feet wide. So it's for multi-use. So it's for people walking as well as riding your bike across. Because you really don't want to ride your bike through the circle necessarily. So there's a big crosswalk to cross right across and then go across the bridge.
I'm just so fascinated by what you do, and I've got great rapport with you. So we've kind of buried the lead here. You've broken my heart with some news here lately.
Yeah, so I am moving on in my career. I know, I'm so sorry. I'm leaving the city in 2 weeks to start a new career, and I have absolutely loved my time at the city, and the hardest part is leaving the people, and I will be, I've told everybody, you'll see me at all the ribbon cuttings, you'll see me at the folk festival. I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be here. So
Now, this job's based in Central Maryland, though, so you're going to be able to do it from here?
yeah, so I'll be working for the Center for Watershed Protection, which is an environmental nonprofit, and they focus on stormwater as their primary mission. They're based out of the Ellicott City area, but they've been teleworking for years. So that's been their model pre-pandemic. So there are engineers that I'll be working with that are in New York or Virginia or Michigan. So I'll be teleworking from home, and then I'll have some field work days where I travel around and go to different parts of the region and look at bioretention areas and other things for stormwater management retrofits. So I'm focusing. I'm kind of following my heart and going with my passion for environmentalism and switching gears a little bit.
Well, a man you may or may not have known, Pete Cooper, used to tell me all the time he had your job in the 50s and 60s for he was city engineer for like 100 years, 200 years. He passed, like, he was 105 or something when he finally passed, and Eastern Shore Drive is sort of named for him.
Yes.
But he said that for decades his phone would ring. With the engineer of the week for the city would call and ask him a question about why is something a certain way and where's the file for this. So you're going to be nearby. Are you going to be taking calls?
Absolutely. And I've told all of my staff that, and they all have my cell phone number and know how to reach me. And I've told people, I can come down and go out to lunch and you can pick my brain, because it is all up here. And of course, as you can probably imagine, I'm sort of crazy organized, so my electronic files are in good shape. They should be able to find it, but I'm happy to. I love what the city's doing and where we're going, and I want to see it grow, and I want to see it be a success. So yes, absolutely. Anybody can call me. I will. Now, not citizen complaints. I'm not up for no citizen complaints, but my colleagues at the city are absolutely welcome to call anytime.
Well, Amanda Pollack, we're so proud of the work you've done and just how you've made my hometown a better place, and just thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
My hope is that when Julia moves on to be someone even way more important, that you come back and be our city manager. Would you ever do that?
I felt like you were planting that seed earlier. Yeah, the Ocean City was no.
No, I just thought of that.
Who knows? I'm not closing any doors. I'm leaving the city, hopefully on great terms, and I'll still be here.
And you live just outside the city limits, so you can't run for mayor.
No, that's correct. I'm in Fruitland, so I could go for Fruitland City Council maybe if I'm bored in the evenings. But no, I'm good.
She's Amanda Pollack. I can't think of anyone who's done more to make our city what it is in terms of the stuff that you see every day and the streets you drive on. Gosh, we're going to miss her. Just thanks for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.